I understand thin-skinned people because I used to be one of the most thin-skinned SOBs you'd ever meet.
Welcome to Hack Learning Uncut with your host, Mark Barnes, a man who's not afraid to say that grades lie, homework sucks, and traditional teachers should be suspended indefinitely. Now, strap yourself in, listen up, and let's hack learning.
We are hacking thin-skinned people today, or we're hacking your thin skin. You might be thinking, I'm not a thin-skinned person, and maybe you're not, but if you're not, you probably know someone who is. And this version of Uncut will be helpful because I want to provide some right now solutions, as we do in Hack Learning, for people with thin skin. You know what I'm talking about. The ones who fly off the handle, the ones who can't be confronted, the ones you can't disagree with. You know who they are. You may be one. If you admit that you're one, well, that's half the battle. And I'm telling you that today that I am speaking from experience because, as I said in the open, I used to be a thin-skinned person. I said SOB, yeah. Hopefully that's not offensive to you. But yes, I was. And I can still be. Not perfect. And I think it's very difficult. It's like once you're an alcoholic, you're an alcoholic. I think to some degree, if you're a thin-skinned person, you've got some anger issues, you may always be that. And what you have to do is learn how to control it. And that's what this is about. I decided to write about this. And there is an article on Medium. You could find me over on Medium. And there's a lengthy piece about this there. And I thought about this for a long time because it's I think it's a little bit controversial. As I say in the post, it's sort of in your face. And I give a disclaimer right at the beginning and I say, this is not an inspirational piece. You know, I think that we get so much of that in education. And it's a good thing. We need to be inspired. But I think it's important also to be challenged, to say, you know, you may do some things that are wrong. You may have some things about you that are wrong, and we need to hack those. That's what we're doing. We need to solve those problems. And I'd like to use myself as an example, as you know by now, if you're listening and you have listened to me for a while. And I want to use my own experience, and I want to share some things. And in all transparency, I want to say that I decided to do this Uncut episode and to write this post because some things happened recently that I think were a part of what I call the thin-skin factor. And I think a lot of people are really thin-skinned from my own experience. And some things happened that just were a little upsetting to me. And I thought, you know what? This is an issue we need to think about. We need to talk about it. We need to face it. So I posted something on Twitter, as I always do. I'm on Twitter, as you know, all the time. I have a huge audience. I share content. People who are what I call my shareholders, ambassadors, VIPs, who write posts and share other great things about teaching and learning. I love to share their stuff, retweet their stuff, comment about their stuff. And, you know, that's what drives the conversation on social media, and it helps us to hack learning. So I shared a post that was something that a friend had written, and I shared it. It was on a popular site, and it was on a topic that I talk about a lot, and there were some tips in the article, and I commented that there's a lot of great stuff here, but I think the overall point is missing. And that led to something that I think comes from thin skin. That's sort of, reacting to something in an angry way, that I can't be told I'm wrong. I don't want anyone to disagree with me. And if a friend disagrees with me, I'm going to think they're betraying me. So, this turned into an incident and some exchanged emails, and really what I think ultimately is a damaged, and I hope not, but possibly destroyed friendship over a tweet. Now, I think this is a thin-skinned reaction. I write about this in this article on Medium, but I decided I wanted to go ahead and follow up with this uncut version. So what I did is I mentioned some things, and I share a lot of my own story, as you know I do. Some of the things I've done in the past that were due to what I call the thin skin factor. Reactions to things that are damaging because it doesn't help. There's nothing good about it. And I say that, in the open, I said, if you are someone who agrees or says, yeah, I'll admit that I'm a thin-skinned person, that's half the battle to improving. Because you have to say, why am I this way? And I talk a lot about this in this article that I wrote over on Medium, and I'll cross-post over at hacklearning.org on the blog there. But I think that there are some things that you need to think about. Consider yourself, and I say in this article, consider if you have any or all of these attitudes. You feel betrayed. So someone that you think is a friend does something, like sends a tweet, and it doesn't agree with you entirely, and boy, you just feel betrayed. You're angry, and you want to lash out about that. You're too political. My wife always says that religion and politics are off limits at family parties, and she's very wise because she's right. Thin-skinned people can't stand to have their political beliefs challenged. Now, I share some opinions on my private Facebook page and occasionally on Twitter, and I have had people just lash out at me about this, both publicly and privately, and really, just call me names. And, I think that's thin-skinned. And again, I've done this in the past, but I feel like I've overcome it, and I want to tell you how. Another thing about thin-skinned people is they often have to be right. It's just, or maybe all the time. It's just like if I say something and you disagree with it, you're wrong and I'm right. In this article, I share a link to a great post from my good friend Angela Stockman, author of Make Writing, and she talks about curbing your confirmation bias. And there's a whole phenomenon here that's really important, and I want you to check it out on this article that you can find over at hacklearning.org on our blog, and also on Medium if you just look me up on Medium. So anyways, as I move forward in this post, and what I want to share now in this uncut version of the Hack Learning Podcast is 3 hacks for your thin skin. Now, these come from my own experience. This is what I learned I had to do. So the first is pause and plan. Now, this is similar to the old advice to take a deep breath and count to 10. What distinguishes pause and plan, though, is the plan phase. You can count to 10 if you want. That's a good thing to do. But then you have to ask, what should I do next, or how should I react? And there's so many times I think of things that I did, and if I could go back in time, I would pause and I would say, what should I do about this? How should I react to this? The person I had a disagreement with on Twitter, there was ultimately some emails, and what I said is, why didn't you just email me about it? And instead of these other reactions, or call me or something and say, hey, let's work through this. I think that's a pause and plan moment. And we need to do this, especially as educators. I talk in this article about how my thin skin hurt my students. It hurt my relationships with colleagues and with administrators because I reacted before I planned. Another hack for your thin skin, abandon social media, at least for a while. A lot of disagreements, arguments, broken friendships start on social media because we're just too quick to react. We're too quick to reply. Someone tweets something, we reply. Someone sends an email, and we quickly reply instead of pausing and saying, let me process this. We see a comment on a political thing on social media, on Facebook, and we say, I'm going to put up a bunch of angry faces and say something back. Just walk away from social media and then go back to pause and plan and say, if I have to react to this, I want to do it differently. And the third hack for your thin skin, such an easy one, but such an amazing one, is to meditate. Back in my own thin skin days, I thought meditation was for monks or people in cults. Then I read a book about meditation and mindfulness, and I decided to give it a try. The research on meditation's impact on emotional states is impressive. And it says it's great for stress, and it's great to relieve anger, and it has impact on your physical being. well-being. So I learned to meditate and be mindful, and it's so easy to do. You don't have to cross your legs in a funny way or do anything like that. You don't have to really use incense or candles. And there's so much out there. You can just Google meditation or mindfulness, and you'll find tons of great articles. But it's just a great way to calm yourself. And I learned that when I am in these places where the thin skin factor can make me do things and say things I don't want to do, to be impatient with kids, my own children, with my wife, with friends, to lash out, to say you're wrong and I'm right. I need to abandon that attitude and that anger, and meditation helps. It calms you. And when you have that calm, it's a whole lot easier then to react in the right way. Hey, today I hope you will shed your thin skin. And I've provided what I believe are 3 very easy and helpful hacks for your thin skin. So give it a try. Head over to hacklearning.org, go to our blog, and you'll find a copy of this post from Medium. And we'll see you next time on the Hack Learning Podcast and out there on social media, where I will always try not to have thin skin.
Thanks for listening to Hack Learning Uncut with your host, Mark Barnes, an edu-hacker who says you don't need another 5-year plan. If you're crazy enough to want more, check out hacklearningpodcast.com and read a Hack Learning book today, will ya? The entire series is available at hacklearningbooks.com.